Since watching Blade Runner as a child, I've been quite obsessed with cyberpunk-esque settings. And Cyberpunk 2020, Cyberpunk Red, is one of my favourite games of all time. So I've been patiently waiting for a Shadowdark equivalent. Yes, I've got Atomic Shadows, but that's a little bit post-apocalyptic. And there is Neon Bright, which is a cyberpunk zine, but it's only 22 pages, so it doesn't really cover a lot, and sadly we've never seen anything new from the creator in that world. And then I was scrolling through Kickstarter and I got an advert also on my Facebook page for CyberDark. I've got a copy of the quick start rules that I'm going to be showing you today, and show you everyone actually where you can download a copy of the quick start rules. I'm going to sort of take you through them. It's 4 pre-generated characters, there's an adventure in here. So yeah, this CyberDark is Shadowrun, Cyberpunk in Shadowdark. And actually, it seems really good what they've done here, because they've done something that's different with the net running phases. Because if you're a fan of Shadowrun or Cyberpunk, actually they've kind of fixed it a little bit, I think, in Cyberpunk Red. Video for another day, maybe. But when someone's doing the net running aspect, so going into the computers, that can be a little bit overshadowing for the adventure, because the focus becomes on them. But what they've done here, or at least the way it seems to me with my sort of play with the rulebook, is everyone joins in and goes in together. Let me start then by just going through the Kickstarter page. So here we have it's the launch page, because it's not actually ready yet. I'm not exactly sure when it's coming. I haven't actually had a date confirmed yet, but as soon as I do, I'll let you know down on all my socials. So here we have this wonderful art here for CyberDark. And it's just going to give you a little bit of information. And the creative team should excite a lot of people. So the people that are doing this. So it's going to be a new Neo dungeon crawler. Okay. And that'll make sense once we actually explain how the dark running is going to work. But the team behind it, so Lightfish has done Farsight RPG, and they're partnered with Epic Party Games, Brancalonia, Inferno, Dante's Guide to the Shadows, which is a really good 5th edition, and the upcoming Assassin's Creed RPG, Massive Darkness. So there's a huge team of talent behind here, and a variety of artists and stuff that have worked on Faerie Fire RPG. And it is, in essence, it's Cyberpunk for Shadowdark. Okay, the thing I noticed interesting here is obviously you've got a core rulebook, and they've got this codex here, which is I'm going to be going through on this video, which ends in adventure. We've got 4 pre-generated characters included as well, which is so you can just download this and try it out for yourself. So you don't have to just take my word for it. Just go and have a play and see what the world, how it feels, how sort of cyberpunky it is in play. But we've got a little deck of card here, which seems to be the glitch deck, which glitches are spells. Okay, so it's done in, you've still got your spellcaster type character, but they are called glitches. Okay, so you can download the free version of English, and there's an Italian version as well. And the players aren't going to edge runners, you're going to be dark runners. So you dash through neon lights, chasing credits, data, and survival in a world ruled by corps, mercs, and gangs. It's just cyberpunk, but Shadowdark rules. On the streets, every deal is a risk, but every cyberdark, every breach could be your last. Don't let your firewall burn out, because when it does, the shadows come alive and Rogue Eye will find you. So I'm going to touch on that when we get into the rules. When you do the connecting into the internet, you've got a safe bit that everyone can plug into. But when the players go in together, you've got timers. Dark timers, like Shadowdark, that can be either half an hour or an hour, depending on. And you've got, and it's basically it's computer software that's going to protect and throw out the light. So you've still got that Shadowdark stuff in a neon bright world, which I think is a really clever way of dealing with it. A little bit here about Shadowdark and 5e players are in search of sci-fi action that will cover, what we've been waiting for. Fast, intuitive TTRPG that bridges OSR danger with the desperate edge of cyberpunk. Art, these 4 images here are the pre-generated characters, which I'll show you at the end of the adventure book that's included. Your story burns in the code. Sharpen your blade, load your guns, ignite your firewall, and jack into the cyberdark. So cyberdark is net running. Download the free copy of the rules here, as well as the adventure. So you've got the Italian equivalent. Variety of socials here, so you can come and join the Discord. I'm on the Discord as well, so I've got my own Discord. Probably should plug that more often. You can follow them on Instagram, Facebook, and subscribe to them on YouTube too. Right, that's enough on the Kickstarter. I say that will be linked down in the video description, so you can go and join in. But let's have a look at the core. Well, it's not the core rulebook. I think this is like it's like a quick start guide, but it does look like it's included in one of the images as well. So because this adventure is just going to be sort of, whether you'll actually be able to print it out as part of the Kickstarter, we'll soon find out once we get to the Kickstarter. So this is 68 pages, which is always good. That say this will cover most of the rules. Doesn't include character generation, but by looking at the pre-gens, we can pretty much work out what the characters do. So if you will need to create a few more, you can pretty much do that. I don't think it's going to be too difficult if you want a melee version of the shooting ranged attacker. I don't think that's going to be an issue. But I'm going to skip over the map because the adventure in here I'm going to be running with a group now. So I need to do this in a way that people that watch me that are going to be in the group don't see this. Well, a bit. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain all of this, but I will actually skip through the adventure. Okay, I'm just going to scroll on because when we get to the adventure, which is this bit here, so it's a 20-room mini dungeon, which is cool. There's quite a lot to go through. But I want to look at the threats because we've got some specific creatures. And I don't think, even if someone's playing in the game, they're going to sort of memorize in there, because I definitely want to be showing you the ice here and this ice hound, because the artwork's amazing and it's really cool. One thing you got to think about is don't think of ice in the same way as Cyberpunk, because ice is computer software. This ice is AI robots. Okay, so the background really into CyberDark and how it, and the world and stuff. I don't think I really need to cover this because if you're aware, as I said, Blade Runner, that sort of image, Cyberpunk, Shadowrun, that sort of futuristic world. You could even go back to the Future 2 when he goes into the future with all the lights and the neon lights and stuff. So it's that sort of world. But obviously people have got cybernetic arms and replacements. Oh, I should have said, yeah, this does fully cover cybernetics. And you've got 4 different areas where you can put your cybernetics as well. So we'll start the book and we'll get into the basics. And you're going to look at this initially. And if you are aware of how Shadowdark works, it's pretty much is just going to be like for like. You can go 30 foot and around in movement, which is near. Everyone has to do an action in the round. You got a movement and an action. You're going to need dice from a D4 all the way up to a D20. Stats, which replace skills, so that's the only thing the players are going to roll. Strength, Dex, Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, Charisma. So even 5e, and well, actually most Dungeons and Dragons players, that'll be very familiar to them. You're rolling a D20, add in your modifier or negative based on the stats, and you're normally looking to achieve a roll of 9 or 12, which are the 2 usual difficulties. You might even end up going as high as 20 or 21, depending. Hit points, you're going to have standard hit points in here, so you only add your con bonus at first level. But for making a character, you could kind of, I think you'll be able to pretty much make a character using the pre-gens that are in here. But as you'd expect, you're going to start off with name and then origin, whether you are a corp-born, street rap, off-world, or anything in between. Your class is the job that you do in the crew. Everyone's going to start at first level. Alignment rules are different in here. You've got liberty, control, and survival, which is like it's still sort of a motivation, but it's going to give you a guide on how you're going to be acting in certain situations. Handle, probably the most important thing. That's your street nickname. Think about that really carefully. You got your 6 stats, hit points, then armor class is the difficulty for someone rolling a d20, add in whatever modifiers they get, trying to equal that or beat it, and then you're going to be taking damage. Attacking wise, you can do ballistics, melee, or energy attacks. You might have some talents, which are powers. Say glitches here, which is it's basically spell casting. You've got gears and loadout and cyberware. You're allowed 1 cyberware per slot. 4 slots, so the way I'm reading it, I think the maximum you should be able to have is 4 bits of cyberware in here. You will gain experience for doing things, and it just so it's slightly different to Shadowdark, where with Shadowdark you're normally finding items. This is going to give you experience for actually doing things. Your statistics going to roll 3d6, roll down the line, and if all of them don't. If there isn't at least a 14 on one of the stats, you can just keep re-rolling. And then if you've got, say, a 13 in Constitution in here, look at this chart. That means you just write +1 next to your Constitution. So if you're rolling a d20, for anything to do with Constitution, withstanding toxins, resisting systems, shock, etc., roll d20, add this 1 to it. Anyway, it's that simple. Gear. As you'd expect, you've got a variety of futuristic gears here. The main thing that you're going to keep you're going to need to make sure you've got at all times is these mine canary or firewalls. This is what you're going to be taking into the CyberDark when you do that sort of net running. This is going to be your torch, and it's going to keep you safe, because being within the torch means you get to roll standard rolls. Once that light goes out, as you'd expect from a Shadowdark game, you're right, everything's at disadvantage, everything becomes more dangerous, and you're going to get attacked a lot more. But you've got other things in here like breach bars for opening cases and stuff. You know, scraps, you're going to need to find scraps that you'll either get from breaking down stuff, or you will find it when you're adventuring, because scraps you can use to create cyberware. So yeah, this has the rules for creating your own cyberware, but it does something, I think, better than just creating cyberware, which I'll talk about when we get there. The money's done right. To me, you know, it's not the abstract money, it is things actually cost an amount, and they've actually sat and worked it out. And obviously you've got a certain amount of gear slots, so these are the amount of space that you can actually carry. 3 different types of armor: street jacket, tactical armor, all the way up to the beetle armor here, which is your full military spec armor. Variety of different common weapons, restricted weapons, military weapons, things from flamethrowers to knives to pistols as well. And as you'd expect, we've got some versatile weapons that can either be one-handed or two-handed. Some weapons will need to be reloaded every round. And then we've got some fierce ones, so anything with an F, which should be familiar. So things like knives, you can either use it off your dex or your strength modifier. Code casting is simply magic. It's the way to think about it. It uses glitches. Still, just again, think magic. You're rolling a d20. Depending on the tier of the spell, in here you only got level 1 tiers because of it's a first level adventure. So you're rolling a d20 plus your intelligence modifier, trying to get over a 10 plus the tier level of the spell, which is a 1. Always going to be a 1 in here, which means you're going to need to get more than 11 to pull the spell off. If you mishap, so if you roll a 1 on it, you're going to glitch and you're going to roll on this mishap table here and not be able to cast the spell again. With code casting, I should say, you can keep casting the same code until you fail it. Once you fail it, you won't be able to do it again for the rest of that day. And certain spells, again, if you're used to Shadowdark, use concentration or focus as it's called. So that's a spell glitch, I should call it, that you would need to cast every round. So it just keeps going and you need to keep casting it. And again, you will just cast that each round. These rules in CyberDark, they actually just call it streams here as opposed to focus. So it's exactly the same terms, works in the same way. They're just called slightly different names. I've got an example of 7 different spells, glitches in here. I'm going to keep calling them spells because I'm a terrible person. You've just been talking about Shadowdark for so long, it's difficult to keep it in your head as to what it should be called in here. But let's just look at this glitch here. Let's pick Signal Spike Overlord. So instant spell, so it's just going to cast it instant, and the range is near, so that's technically within 30 feet. You overload a target's wet wire, implant or device with a violent surge, dealing a d6 damage. So you're going to be able to actually attack someone's cybernetic wares to actually just damage that, or you can start using against some of their equipment, which is quite cool. The alignment change, say we've got 3 new alignments: gone, lawful, neutral, and chaotic. We've got liberty, survival, and control. But in general, you've got liberty, which is fight to reclaim freedom in the world. Survival, no ideology, they're just looking to survive themselves. And then control, you embrace the iron structure of imposed order. So it's very similar, but just slightly different names. Cyberware, so actually it shows you on the character sheet, you've got 4 different places where you can put them: a head, body, arms, and legs. And this will just tell you where they go and the cost for them and what they do. So for example, kinetic frame here will do, so it's a body type, but it's going to give you +1 to dex or +1 to strength. It's up to you. Adrenal surge, advantage on initiative checks. That's always going to be handy. Cyber forging. Now, it doesn't say that you should do this, but this is the way I would run this. So if you want to create your own cybernetics, you can. And it tells you how many scraps it's going to make, and it also tells you how many credits it's going to cost. But three things are going to happen. You're either going to succeed, made perfectly, you're going to fail, half the scraps are lost and your money's gone, or you fail by 5 or less, and you do make it, but it becomes a complication. And then you roll this d6 here to find out what is wrong with the cyberware. Now, the way I'm going to use this is I'm going to make that roll. Because I like the idea of the player not knowing whether the cyberware is working perfectly or not. So if they don't know, they're only going to find out when one of these things starts happening. That's the sort of games master I am. I like people to find out that something's gone wrong, because I always think, if they know that it's faulty and they're going to strap it into their best friend, they might not do that. Players might go, I'm not going to put it in. So yeah, I think this should be something the games master rolls. Dice rolling, so you've still got advantage and disadvantage in here. So if you're in a favourable environment, you'd roll 2d20, pick the higher. If it's an adverse effect, so let's say you're shooting through fog or something like that, or you're shooting in the dark, then you roll 2d20 and you pick the lower one. Natural 20s always do something good. It's critical. Natural ones always fail. If you need to decide on a coin toss, you can roll a d6. 1 to 3, worst outcome. 4 to 6, better outcome. Edge tokens, another thing to learn. Luck tokens out, edge tokens in. It's exactly the same. So you can only ever have one edge token, and you can use it to re-roll a failed roll or give it to someone else so they can re-roll. There is a little mechanic on the player characters, the pre-gens, where if you do a specific goal for a day, that will give you another edge token back as well. Here's just a few details and examples of where you'd use your strength, constitution, intelligence, stats, and things like that. And then say the difficulties. So normally you're looking at a 9 for an easy check, 12 for a normal check. Shadowdark or CyberDark does do social in a different way. So none of this that you get in 5th edition where you want to try and charm the pants off a dragon, you roll a 20 and go, ooh, natural 20, that's done really well. How CyberDark works or how CyberDark works is you'll be expecting the player to actually explain what they're doing, and then as the games master you will then take a judgment and decide whether you think it's going to work well or not. It actually encourages good role playing. Time is done differently in CyberDark, and basically 1 minute of game time actually is equivalent to 1 minute in the real world. So that's because there's going to be certain things, like when you've got torches and stuff, that you're going to be wanting to set timers. So for example, when you are cyber running and you've only got an hour, then you will actually set a timer, and after an hour the light will go out. Okay, so is it the biggest USB from Shadowdark? It's probably the thing that it's most well known for, and this is just taking it, as you'd imagine, and it's going to use it there as well. So grid running, so there's 2 different areas to the game. We've got grid running on the left and dark running on the right. Okay, so grid running is playing in the real world, dark running is playing within the net. That's the difference. There's no real difference other than that. So everything works the same. Most powers and abilities work the same. The key difference is most grid running places, if you're playing in the daylight, will have light. Dark running, once you go into the networks, it's always going to be dark once you get into the CyberDark, which is why you're going to need your Mind Canary firewall active. Saying that stays lit for half an hour or an hour, depending on whether you're in the normal dark running area or one of the corrupted areas. Okay, so if it's the corrupted area, it's only 30 minutes. That's the key difference between those 2 pages. Ghost Protocol just covers things like hiding, ambushing, detecting. So the opposed rolls for sort of wisdom and dexterity to, spot someone trying to sneak away. Combat is nice and quick, so a couple of pages on here. So just determine initiative. So everyone's going to roll a dex plus modifier. Whoever's the highest goes first. Then you just go around the table clockwise. It really speeds up combats. I know it sounds a little bit strange to people that have never done it, but you know exactly when you're going in tilt order if you're just going around the table. And you're going to get 1 move, 1 attack. And you can give up your 1 attack to do 2 moves. That's it. And you can go near, which is about 30 feet. You can do melee combat, ranged combat. You can cast your glitch, your spells, do an improvised roll, or multitask things. You know, different terrain's going to slow you down. Once you get to 0 hit points, you're technically dying. You're going to get to roll a d4, add your con modifier, and that's how many rounds you're going to live for until you sort of bleed out and die. Somebody wants to stabilize you and they haven't got magic, they're going to need a DC 15 check to stabilize you. Now that's going to leave you at 0 hit points, but you're stabilized. Each round, before you do die, there is this nice safety mechanism here. I say nice. You've got to roll a 20 on a d20, and if you do that, you're going to spring back to life with 1 hit point. So good luck with that. Rest in. See, once you're going to rest, if you find a safe area, you can just rest and return some of your hit points. Sorry, return all of your hit points and any stat modifiers. If you are resting in a dangerous area, so not back where you live or in a hotel, things like that, there will be an element that the area might be unsafe, risky or deadly, and this is either 3 hours, 2 hours, or every hour is how often the games master is going to roll for an encounter. We're then going to get into this first level introductory adventure here, which I'm not going to cover. I'm going to scroll straight on because I don't want any of my players going, okay, that's what's going on. But in essence, there's an area that's a slummy area, and the party's going to be sent in to clean it all out, as you'd imagine from any sort of net running type thing. So there's the adventure, just skip through that. And then we've got these, I think it's 8 pages of threats here. So sort of different AI demons that they're going to fight when they go inside the net. We've got some criminals, corporate people, but Darkling apostles, because there's cult stuff. But the best thing in here is this Ice Hound. So I always think of Ice when I think of Cyberpunk, because Ice is the software that will attack the netrunners. But here it's intrusion countermeasures electronics, which is like an AI robotic. Really, and I just wanted to show this hound here. It's by far my favorite piece of art that's attached to this Kickstarter so far, and it's this Ice Hound here. As promised, now let's look at the 4 pre-gens. So I'm not going to spend too long getting into them because I think because it's free to download, you can go and have a look at themselves. But in essence, you've got this Cynthiago, which is the street fist. He's a breaker, so he's going to be stood at the front punching and smashing things. He doesn't need to eat or sleep. He's got some extra targeting things that he can do 3 times a day, as well as he's got some cybernetics here for a kinetic frame to give him +1 dex, and he's got some legs here, so which allows him to avoid. I like this one. Once per day, avoid an attack that would hit you. Variety of gear that's all included. We've then got is it Keshka? I think she's incredibly dexterous and stealthy. She's going to be able to sort of sneak around, disguising herself, and she's very good at hacking in here. We then get Kryn, which he's like the really tough, kind of like a surgeon, cybernetic creator. And it comes with 3 different bits of cyberware. I should have actually said, so the second page on each of the character sheets, we've got, it just explains the class here. But all of them will have this edge token reclaim condition. So you roll a d6 at the start of the day. And for example, if he rolls a 4, so he's going to prep a secure shelter, food, or protection. So if he does that during the day, he's going to be able to get his edge token back, which is your super bright, super skinny intelligence codecaster, magic user. And just details a few of the spells. This was saying, I think, because it was looking like I might be running this for 5 players, and if I'm going to do 5 players, I think we've got enough in here that you can create easily a new character, because you say you've got realistically the backgrounds in here of what, you know, the talents and skills that you can go with. So yeah, CyberDark. Exciting. I'd say for me, this is an instant back. It's, you know, I'm happy to support this project based on, you know, I've gone through these rules. So I'll be playing the one shot. It's not this Sunday, the following Sunday. I think it's the 3rd, or no, it'll be the 2nd I get to play this. So I'll do a further update after I've actually played the adventure. And obviously I'll let you know once the Kickstarter goes live. But if you're interested in backing this, use the link in the video description. That will just take you to exactly where the Kickstarter project is, like that, and then you'll be notified once the Kickstarter project goes live. I'll probably announce it in my socials. As you can tell, I'm pretty excited for this one. So if you've enjoyed this video, like, share, subscribe to the channel, go and support this project, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.